Hello, everyone. This year's second eclipse season is just around the corner on the 25th of October at the new moon, Scorpio New Moon. We are going to have a partial solar eclipse right spot on Venus. Now, this particular eclipse belongs to Saros Series 6 South. And let's take a look before we actually look at the chart, because the thing that I prepared for you this time is a little bit eclectic, because I also wanted to show you the initial eclipse of the series. So let's take a look at what eclipses are astronomically. And if you are well versed in astrology, you probably know that most astrological phenomena are coming to our attention in predictable cycles. So, for instance, when we know that the sun enters Aries on the 20th of March, we can be sure that next March on the 20th, it will again enter Aries. Or if we know that at the moment, Venus is let's say a morning star, and after a while it will disappear from the sky because it gets very near the sun. So the sun eclipses it, and then after a couple of weeks, it will appear as an evening star. And then again, it goes back into being a morning star, and so on. So planetary cycles are quite predictable. And also joint planetary cycles. For instance, the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction occurs every 20 years. We know that, we can expect it, whatever. And it will go on until the solar system is standing intact. It will go on. These planetary cycles will go on. That's not the case with eclipses. Eclipses come in series, not cycles. They start with a new moon either at the south or the north pole of the Earth, and usually a series starts with a very, very tiny eclipse. So here's the sun, and the moon is just covering a little tiny portion of the sun. That's the start eclipse. And every 18 years, and then another eclipse repeats the same pattern, the same geometry. And within one series, you may have 72, 73 items. The whole series takes about 1,300 years. And then if it started from the south node, south pole, it will end at the north pole, and vice versa. And then this series will never repeat. So that's the key. There are many, many ways to work with eclipses. And I'm not going to present this because we also have some interesting ways to look at it in karmic astrology. All I want to show you now is this particular eclipse on the 25th and the start eclipse, because according to Bernard Brady, if you analyze the first of the series, you will get the flavor of the whole series. So that's what we are going to look at just briefly, but then we are going to concentrate on this upcoming solar eclipse. So here's the chart for London, and it will commence, let's put it this way, on October the 25th at 10:49 London time. As you can see, the new moon is on Venus, spot on. They're exactly conjunct. So if you have anything at Scorpio 1 to 3 degrees, this particular eclipse will be very important for you. Sagittarius is the rising, so Jupiter will have the chart ruler position. And besides the Sun, Moon, Venus, which, okay, we can analyze it, Sun, Moon, Venus should be brilliant, of course, because Sun, Venus is about harmony and money-making properties, and Moon, Venus is linking the two feminine sides, mother and lover. And if you have nice aspects in your chart between Sun and Venus, then you as a woman are able to experience both sides of womanhood in a nice way. So this would be okay. So you might ask, what is the problem with it? Well, the only problem is that Venus in Scorpio is in exile. It's opposite its own sign, and it doesn't work properly according to traditional astrology in the sign where a planet is in exile. It means it's not strong enough. It doesn't work properly. And in this case, what we usually say, although please don't get offended and please don't run to your chart to take a look whether it's true or not. But in karmic astrology, we often note that if you have a Scorpio Venus, then you might have had certain lives where you were selling your own body. I'm trying to be very nicely decent, so not to hurt anyone's feeling. Usually, how to make money, how to prevent poverty, how to break out of poverty. There are many ways. And one way, one so-called easy way, to me, it would be the hardest, but to some people, one easy way is to sell your own body. You can do that if you can. If you can't, then you need to look at something else. But here, I would only say that this is a nice triple conjunction at the very beginning of Scorpio. It has an emphasis on creating money and harmony, but at the same time, Venus is not very strong, although it gets infused by the power of the two luminaries. What else is here? You will note that Venus Astrea is still very, very strongly tied up, although Astrea now is going backwards and Juno is going forward. So the Juno Astrea conjunction, which is about how you can transform or break old embedded karma regarding your relationships or partnerships. It's still there at your disposal. You can still utilize it. And the rest, well, let's take a look at the chart ruler. Jupiter is conjunct Dark Moon Lilith, and the IC is conjunct Chiron. But if you take a look at the Liliths, they are quite prominent in this chart. The asteroid Lilith is conjunct Trans-Pluto, and Trans-Pluto is dimension jump and channeling. So, and the asteroid Lilith is the archetype of revolt against injustice. So it's the first turning point of the Lilith myths, when Lilith says, I don't want to be below you, she says to Adam. And then the Dark Moon Lilith, which is accepting the curse. That's the turning point in the myth when Lilith leaves the Garden of Eden, disappears somewhere in the Red Sea, and then Yahweh sends 2 or 3 angels after her to bring her back, but she refuses, and she accepts Yahweh's curse upon her instead of going back. And this usually suggests some sort of turning point in your own life when you are so fed up with something and you are either offended or you just want out, and you're leaving, you are quitting simply because you can't go on anymore, and you are willing to accept the curse. So it means that you don't care, even though you know that you're going to be cursed. That's what it means. And on the chart ruler, it's certainly a biggie. For instance, in Budapest, Scorpio is rising, not Sagittarius. So you will have different chart rulers and different ascending signs wherever you put the new moon. So here in London, it is quite prominent, and it emphasizes the fact that there's something here that is not very decent, let's put it this way. And then the Black Moon Lilith, which is the third turning point in the myth, is on Pallas Athena. You see 2 very independent virgin energies in a way. Black Moon Lilith is in the myths describes the point when Lilith goes back into the Garden of Eden and gives the apple to Eve, gives knowledge to Eve. Whereas Pallas Athena springs out of the head of Zeus, and she doesn't have a mother, of course, and she rose to stay and be at the side of Zeus and helps him. First of all, she has two main rules. One is to protect Athens. So she's the protector of Athens, but she's also the goddess of wisdom. So these two strong characters actually at the cusp, almost at the cusp of it's technically in the 8th house, but very close to the cusp of the technically in the 7th house, very close to the cusp of the 8th, means that some strong feminine will have a very strong impact during these 2 days. It's not your new prime minister, I must say. Okay, so here is the Saros series 6 South, which started the series, and the date is 1046 March the 6th. And so this is what you have. This is what you have in the chart, and this comes from Bernadette Brady's book on eclipses, the title of which is The Eagle and the Lark. If you can get this book, if you are serious in astrology, it's a brilliant book about forecasting. And so this is what we have here. First of all, so that's the original series. That's the original starting point of the series. As you can see, there is also a Sun, Moon, Venus conjunction, which is at the exact midpoint of the Uranus North Node. And Lilith is quite nearby, but it's not within orb, because with midpoints we allow a 1 to 1.5 degree orb. So the midpoint is right here at 11 degrees Virgo. And at the same time, the Sun, Moon, Venus is at the midpoint of North Node Uranus. What is North Node Uranus? I want to change Uranus, my destiny, North Node. So it's highlighting this particular need. It also has a Mars. It has a retrograde Mars, but there's a Mars Pluto opposition. Quite interestingly, there was a Pluto trans-Pluto conjunction, just like in the early 40s in the last century. And so husband and wife of the underworld are there, opposite Mars. Well, it's interesting because there's a war going on, and of course the warlord is opposite the Mars, the Pluto trans-Pluto conjunction. And there's also a Mars-Neptune trine. It's a fire trine. So actually, this is a dissolved opposition. You might see this solution here. So you have the Grail Knight helping the whole situation. There's also a Uranus-Pluto air trine. So actually, this opposition is dissolved from 2 sides. So it's actually not exactly, but almost. There could be a mystic rectangle. They are not closing actually, so they are not exact. But there is a Pluto Uranus trine. So the 2 transformation planets, the revolution and transformation, are doing things in harmony. And there's also a tiny Jupiter-Saturn semi-sextile, which actually helps us to find proper balance. So that's the original chart. Now let's take a look at what Bernadette Brady says about this series. I took this from her book. I hope she doesn't mind it, but of course I honor her greatly, and I also suggest that you get the book because she's really brilliant. Anyhow, this is what she says, that this eclipse series is about being forceful and taking power. It has a manic flavor about it. That's exactly what you're seeing at the moment, with great force or strength manifesting in the relationship area. Relationship, and or whenever we talk about relationship, that's also open enemies, right? So this is, and they're talking about nuclear war, these idiots. You don't hear one single voice that propagates peace. It's ridiculous, okay? It's really ridiculous. This war is bad for everyone except for the United States. The United States is going to make a lot of money. They are pushing their horrible oil, how do you call it? Fracking oil. How do you call that? LNG. To Europe, which is 10 times more expensive and 100,000 times more polluting, because first of all the technology is very, very polluting, and then you have to put it in big tankers, okay, that are crossing over the ocean. Think about the oil that they are consuming, and then you can actually get it. Come on, don't tell me that this is the future. Okay, anyhow, individuals experiencing this Saros Series may experience sudden events like falling in and out of love or sudden sexual encounters. And the individual may also exert a huge effort in some group activity. So that's what she says about the series. Now let's go back to the 25th, October 25th chart. So this is again the London chart, and let's take a look at what we have here. Well, there is a crooked or dissociate yod, a finger of fate. How? Let's take a look. The Sun, Moon, Venus in Scorpio is making an exact yod to the Jupiter Dark Moon Lilith conjunction. But Sedna, creation through dissection, is still in Taurus and retrograding. So you do have the quincunx, you do have the sextile, but the energies are actually opposition energies, not quincunx energies. There are some transcendental celestial objects here. Let's take a look at what we have. Let me try to make it less crooked. Okay, okay. Here, this is what you have. On the Sun, Moon, Venus, you have 4 celestial objects: academia, academic knowledge; amor, love; radamanthus, which is a TNO, and in the myth, radamanthus is the son of Europe, and Zeus, so the chief god and Europe, and he becomes the king of Crete, and he creates such beautiful laws. They are so wonderful and so balanced that after his death, Zeus puts him in charge of the underworld. He becomes one of the judges of the underworld. Judgment, good laws, just rules. So that's what you can link to it. And then there is this fixed star Beta Argo Navis, Mia Placidus or Maya Placidus. I've never known, I don't ever know how you guys are pronouncing certain words. We never talked about this, and so I'm going to show you where it is. Argo Navis is a very southern constellation, and we are going to take a look at it in a moment. But before we do that, on Jupiter Dark Moon Lilith, you have Manve and Sheat, and you don't have anything on Sedna. Who was Manve? If you read Tolkien's Silmarillion, Manve was the king of waters, and he is the god of the air and winds, and he is served by birds. And he's linked to channeling powers. He's linked to getting things out of thin air and understanding stuff through downloading it from somewhere. And then Sheat is Beta Pegasus. You take a look at the numbers here. Both stars are beta stars, so the second brightest in the constellation. But at the same time, there's a little bit less than 1 magnitude difference between them. So Beta Argo Navis is brighter than Beta Perseus, but they're still beta stars. And Sheat is the main healing word for suicide victims. Fresh suicide victims, the souls of fresh suicide victims are taken here, where they have suddenly faced the horrible issue that they destroyed the vehicle of life that was given to them, that they chose to serve them, and they destroyed the very vehicle for the incarnation. And it's a terrible sin, and it has very it has a very, very strong impact on the soul itself, so it needs to be healed. And that is happening on Sheat. Jupiter is going back to Pisces within 4 days on the 29th. And then it will spend another 2 months in Pisces, but it will always be within Ob to Sheat. So Sheat will be very prominent in the next 2 months. Jupiter goes back into Aries for good for a year on the 20th of December. I'm going to make a video on that as well, because I think it's important. Anyhow, here is Argo Navis, or Alpha Carina, because Argo Navis was dissected into 3 different portions. So here it is. And on the planetarium, you can take a look how very southern Mio Placidus is. It's really a southern, the whole constellation is to the south, and this star can never be seen from the northern hemisphere. There's also a very, very unusual trapeze within the chart, and I actually put in the opposition here as well to show you that here is a nice configuration, a planetary picture, but sometimes you can get one corner pushed by something else. So I left it here, although I hope you can still see the trapeze up here. All trapezes have the function of the stage, how you are actually stepping on a stage and showing what you know, showing the the outside world what you want to believe in. So there are things like that. And the base, the very base of this trapeze is the fixed square between Saturn and Uranus, which, depending on the orb that you are using, kind of will be there until December, so to speak. But it's still quite tight at the moment. It's as tight, you can see that it's tight because it actually forms a configuration, and configurations have very, very tight orbs within 2 degrees. What is the Saturn-Uranus square? It is always a fight between the old and the new, between the establishment and revolution. That's exactly what you can see in the outside world. They are trying to push onto us some sort of world government. For this, they need to completely demolish our old world, and stupid people at a moment of desperation will demand some sort of order, and then the world government can step in, the world government made of technocrats. They want a world religion, they want to do away with all religions, and instead they want to have a world religion. They want to have one nation, no languages, no politicians. They don't need politicians. That's what one of their epigons said. And they don't even need us. The moment you don't have truthful and concerned politicians, leaders for your own country, you are doomed. And the problem is that at the moment when you look around, this is what you see. The EU is full of cretins, idiots, and crooks. And there are very, very few true statesmen and stateswomen. Stateswomen, I don't know anyone. There are a few who have some sort of vision, but the rest are just crooks. That's the problem. And so I don't know how we can avoid this, but that's the struggle. That's the base of the trapeze. Now the sides, how can you get to the top, are two triadysides. And triadysides are among the quintile series. They denote ingeniousness and talent, which comes through some sort of altered states of consciousness. Meditation and prayer are the best ways to get to the top. And the top is a sextile, so it's full of potentials. The Sun, Moon, Venus on the one hand, and Lilith trans Pluto on the other hand. So there is Lilith, revolt against injustice. The people will revolt against injustice. They are doing it in London since the COVID stupidity. And then trans Pluto means to get to a higher dimension, to channel the relevant information. And the inside shows you the inner workings. What makes you want to go on the top? What makes you what pushes you on the stage, let's put it this way. And you have two quindachiles, 165 degrees. Quindachila is obsession and ambition. And this is one, on the one hand, there is Uranus, who is pushing towards change, Sun, Moon, Venus, your well-being, your harmony, and your monetary situation. And Saturn pushes the other quindachila, which is about revolt against injustice and transcending the stuff, going one level higher. So that's a very unusual trapeze, and I just wanted to show you this. Here are the transcendental objects linked to this trapeze. Again, I'm not going to enumerate the four on the Sun, Moon, Venus, but on Saturn you have Helio and Sualostin. Helio is a sun god, of course, Helios, and Sualostin is Alpha Dolphin, the healing word for Atlantean karma. It's a very important star. And interestingly, you also have Niobe, Patientia, Phaethon, and Rukba on Uranus. Niobe is grief, losing your children. Patience means you need to be patient, tell this to Uranus. Phaethon is the disaster when everything is collapsing. And Ruha is Delta Cassiopeia. We've not haven't talked about Ruha yet, so I'm going to show you in detail where it is. But it's in Cassiopeia, it's the Delta star, it's the fourth brightest star. Take a look. The Dolphin is not a very bright constellation. You have 3.9 magnitude for the Alpha star, and the Delta, which is the fourth brightest within the constellation, has 2.8. So that's why I keep telling you that Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, and things like that show you within the constellation the brightness, but the number shows you the magnitude, which is always absolute. And then on Lilith trans Pluto, you have Isis and Sisyphus. And we already looked at, actually, I am not sure, but you have Satalajbia on the Juno Astrea, which is, I think it's the Gamma star of, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, yes, the third brightest star in the constellation Aquarius. And it is located right at the urn, where water flows out of the urn of the water bearer. And this water is the water of life. And the whole constellation of Aquarius is linked to luck, various manifestations of luck. And Satalajbia shows the luck in human existence. So try to be lucky, try to be happy about your position. And here's Ruha. As you can see, Cassiopeia is a very northern star. It's actually one of the so-called circumpolar stars, so it's up in the sky every night. It's a W. It's quite noticeable because it has very bright stars. So you look up close to the Big Dipper and the pole star, you will see the W, and that's Cassiopeia. And this is the Delta star of Cassiopeia within this very, very bright constellation. Okay. So this is the upcoming new moon. It's a very heavily, I wouldn't use the word fated because it's still the Sun, Moon, Venus there, but it's a very action-packed new moon is maybe the good word. We will see how the trapeze is manifesting, because something will come up on the stage, something will manifest for sure, and the people are getting angry. So, okay, we will see what it is. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.